Hi, we are Grigori Gharveyn. This is part 7 of our current project, Our Future History, How the Earth Made Peace. Part 7, Priority 2, Unification. Because the threat to the biosphere involved climate change that was accelerating at an inexorable pace, sustainability was chosen by one faction of the interfaith movement as being the most urgent. As it developed, threats to our biospheres played directly into concerns about the potential for global civil war. To end both threats would require unification. At that time, unification seemed like a much bigger challenge to too many people. It was a challenge that involved a great deal of uncertainty. The basis for creating world peace would be the emerging mimetic sciences. Mimetic sciences were scarcely known and poorly understood when our ancestors began to apply mimetics to creating world unity and world peace. In our ancestors' time, mimetics was only just emerging as a science with functional applications in social engineering. Many people understood that the potential of mimetics was to give those already in power who understood mimetics an iron-tight grasp on the minds of any populations ignorant of how mimetics were being used against them. One challenge our ancestors faced was this: could knowledge of mimetics and reliable mimetic countermeasures be successfully delivered to the entire population of the world? Many mimetic agencies and their human hosts and institutions would be threatened by teaching this knowledge to the entire world. Institutions threatened by widespread application of mimetics to disrupt their mind control systems would respond by trying to discredit the interfaith movement or subvert its members and their support systems. Many of these institutions would not stop short of murder to silence public efforts to successfully educate the public to their mind control tactics. Our ancestors entered into something of a race. Could they gather support for their interfaith movement quickly enough before they popped up on the global radar as a threat to the ruling elite that would require a response? Could they manipulate the various special interest groups that relied on brainwashing the masses into helping them attract more members to their causes? Our ancestors faced many challenges as they convened to create world peace. We can understand the challenges they faced in mimetic science terms. They lacked then. We can see how the prime solution emerged as a natural product of all the related forces. However, for our ancestors, it must have seemed as if they were flying blindly by the seats of their pants. They were warned it would be a bumpy ride. The media was played for best advantage. The interfaith movement gathered social momentum as more and more voices joined together in interfaith forums and learned the skills they would need to make a lasting world peace. Because the heart of the new revolution was knowledge freely available to all people, the revolution could not be stopped without shutting down the internet, a step that those who passed themselves off as authorities reluctantly agreed they could not afford to take. The war to liberate the hearts and minds of humanity was still a very pitched battle. Many people were hurt as the specter of global civil war was raised all over the planet. Global civil war had been part of a plan by our ancestors' ruling elite for a long time. The people who ruled our most powerful nations and corporations knew about the pending threat of global warming. They knew in meticulous detail how dangerous the threat posed by a breakdown of the atmospheric oceanic carbon cycle would be. They knew that the surest way to prevent this disaster would be to dramatically cull human populations, either by sterilization and attrition or by mass murder. Plans for global civil war seemed a safe possibility for them if they could not successfully tailor a biological war agent to either sterilize nearly everyone or kill nearly everyone without putting themselves or their support infrastructures at risk. So, at the very least, a global civil war was in the cards waiting to be dealt to the rest of the world. Also waiting in the cards was the possibility of deploying a pandemic plague that would kill or sterilize close to 90% of all people on the planet. This was how the elite few who ruled our ancestors' worlds were thinking, planning, preparing to survive. They were planning to survive by eliminating nearly everyone else as safely and effectively as they could possibly manage, without using weapons of mass destruction which might accidentally find and kill them in their own bunkers, or leave the planet a greater ruin than it might have been had we waited for the biosphere collapse to make us all extinct. Many people in our ancestors' times already suspected this was their plan. Messages about this plot to cull global populations were already beginning to get out when the interfaith movement began to strategize about how best to deliver the new enlightenment of mimetic and noetic sciences. Like mimetic sciences, noetic sciences were also still in their infancy. Hardly anyone understood what they were or their potentials. Noetic sciences were exploring the possibility that human minds could directly alter the physical world. As we know today, this turned out to be true. However, to our ancestors, the claims of mimetic and noetic sciences seemed unbelievable. The cultural autoimmune systems defending the ruling elite of our ancestors' civilization from the advancement of enlightenment worked constantly to discredit both emerging sciences. However, to their credit, more and more of the ruling elite were enjoying the benefits of learning the new sciences. Slowly, the ruling elite came over to the side of the swiftly unifying world to help establish a united planet with a fully transparent global government that could truly provide peace, liberty, justice, security, diversity, and abundance for all people everywhere, with no one left behind. This had already happened before in our great-great ancestors' history. This would not be the first time this sort of change under the impetus of enlightenment would take place. However, the upheavals of previous changes had typically left few survivors to record events and describe them accurately in terms that would stand the test of time. This time, nearly everyone would survive. The plans that might have led to a state of global civil war were set aside. The social momentums of the people being manipulated to create the carefully planned civil wars were safely dissipated. Our ancestors survived what turned out to be the more immediate threat, their own fears and tendencies to destroy themselves. With the social obstacles of world peace resolved, our ancestors found themselves united in a common purpose to create an infrastructure for a sustainable future. Our ancestors had just won the hardest battle of their lives, battle to control their own hearts and minds free of domination by any agency or power other than themselves. The rest was going to be a piece of cake. Namaste.